This is an automatic 500cc two-stroke. You don't see these things at the track very often. They are super rare. So I feel very privileged to say that today we're going to take this thing for a real rip. Not only are we going to ride and review this 1985 Husqvarna 500 AE, but we're also going to test it head-to-head against our very modern fuel-injected Husqvarna 500 two-stroke. But first things first, let's get this auto fired into line, because I think it's a slightly different process.
It's a stranger shaped kickstart.
Yeah. So this is a 1985 Husqvarna 500 AE. Well, this one is actually a custom machine. It's a 1985 motor inside of a 1982 chassis. If you watch our channel regularly, you'll know that I actually tried to buy one of these Husqvarna automatics recently, and I just missed out on winning it in an auction. But in that video, we went through the entire history of automatic dirt bikes and why they exist. But if this is your first time watching one of our videos, never fear. I'll give you a quick rundown of what the hell this bike is, why it exists, and a quick history of automatic dirt bikes a little later in the video once we've got this beast fired into life. So to get this beast started, obviously you've got the fuel and the choke, but on the Husqvarna 500 AE, the kickstart is on the left. There's also a lever down there on the automatic transmission. You can see it says N for neutral and D for drive. When kickstarting, you want to make sure it's in neutral. We were told that the best method to get the bike started was to use your right leg while standing on the left. Ideally using a stand or a mound or something else to get a bit of height and a bit of leverage on that kicker. And then, much like any other big bore two-stroke, you've got to find top dead center. When you've done that, just give it a big old kick and hope for the best.
Okay, so I'm on board an automatic 500cc two-stroke. This is a Husqvarna AE 500. Now this particular machine is a bit of a Frankenstein bike. Whoa! It's a 1985 motor, 500 AE. Inside the chassis of a 1982 Husqvarna CR500. Yeah. And I'm just getting used to the beast here around this nice stubble-filled circuit. And the main things, it's so weird, man. There's no clutch, obviously, no gear lever, obviously, and that was weird. You come out of a corner into a long straight like that, you're looking to hook up through the gears, and you simply do not need to. That's the biggest thing to get your head around on this bike. Very similar, actually, to the modern electric bikes, the starts, in that aspect. What's not similar is everything else, the brakes, the suspension, everything.
Automatic transmission project for Husqvarna started back in the 1970s when they were given a big contract by the Swedish Army to build the most user-friendly motorcycles for raw recruits. Fast forward 10 years and that technology had filtered down to their enduro and motocross race machines. Husqvarna certainly weren't the first automatic dirt bikes in the market. Rokon had beaten them to it. But the Husqvarna versions were definitely the best known and the most successful. Smaller cc versions of the AE, such as the 430, had dominated in the AMA Enduro Championships for years. And when Bo Egberg surprised the world during the 1982 500GP season, riding a properly factory prototype 500cc AE, the 500 version of the automatic Husqvarna was quickly put into production. So that's how and why this machine exists.
Like I said earlier in the video, we've done a whole video about that history. You'll see that on the channel elsewhere. This is all about the ride. These things were good race machines back in the day, especially in the enduro world. The main complaint most people had was that when you shut off the throttle, there's no engine braking, and the bike just didn't want to slow down. And with these ancient drum brakes, I can see why people did not enjoy that aspect of riding the 500 AEs. But how good and or bad were the brakes in reality? Well, let's find out.
To compare the 500 AE against a conventional machine, we've brought along Kong, which is our fuel-injected 500cc two-stroke build from last year. This thing is powered by a BRC motor and is an absolute weapon.
Okay, so I'm on board Kong now. This is our modern Husqvarna 500 two-smoker fuel-injected beast. And I'm just having a little ride to compare it to the 500 AE that I've just had a little spin on. And already, man, this thing feels a lot faster, for sure. Instantly feels faster. But I'm spinning up everywhere, man. You can definitely feel how the power's been put to the ground a lot less efficiently on this than on that old bike. And obviously the brakes are way better on this. So it will be interesting to see what lap times. It'll be interesting to see what lap times we're seeing on the two. Sean's going to have a go and chuck down some fast laps for us. So we'll see about that in just a second.
Okay then, so it's time for me to get behind the camera, and it's time for our chief test rider here, Sean Smith, to get behind the bars of both Kong and the Husqvarna 500 AE. He's going to spin laps on both machines before we get the stopwatch out. But before we get to the hot laps, let's have a quick chat with Sean and review this Husqvarna 500 AE. Okay, Sean, so we've both had a ride on the infamous Husqvarna 500 AE, the automatic 500cc two-stroke. Bit of a different experience today, wasn't it?
Yeah, extremely.
So first of all, first thing I noticed when I got on it was, blimey, this is a tall bike. Concerned for Sean today. It's very tall. I don't know, because this is a bit of a Frankenstein machine with an 85 motor in an 82, right? 82 Husqvarna 500 frame.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's why it's so tall, or they were tall bikes back in the day, but it was massive.
And it's set up for Warren.
Yeah, who's
and he's
bigger than
yeah,
both
he's
of us,
tall
yeah.
as well. So
aside from the obvious weird things, having no clutch and no gear lever, you come out of a tight corner into a long straight, and your hand's doing this and your foot's flapping around like that.
there was one point where I watched you like hooking gears, but you weren't hooking gears, but you were.
I was doing it for dramatic effect.
Yeah.
But the main thing after that was the brakes, man. They're obviously, being an automatic, it will freewheel naturally into a corner. There's no engine braking. But with these old drum brakes, it didn't want to stop. When we was in the tight motocross track that we started on before we came to this field. That was scary. Coming into over a jump and into a tight corner, I'm like, oh my God. And I'm just like full handful of front brake. And you can see that's back brake down there is quite agricultural looking. I think it's hard to feel and find.
What I found with it, with the braking, I think if you had a bit of gas on, it seemed to track a hell of a lot better, especially that fast straight down there, braking into corner. If you like, you know, you rolled off the throttle, so then it basically freewheeled and you're on the brakes. It was sliding all over the place. It was so hard to control, but just a bit of gas made it track into the ground. So that's how I was then controlling it to stop. But it's such an unorthodox way of riding it. It was like mind-boggling for the first few laps.
You have to retrain your brain.
Yeah. You have to understand it, work out how it turns, because it doesn't want to turn very well. I've noticed that.
The front
and then go from there. And it was just hard to control, I think.
From what I know from riders that raced these things back in the day, it was a process of retraining your brain to ride the bike, retraining your right hand on that throttle in the turns to maybe just tickle it where you wouldn't normally.
Well, I
but
think
just
you've got
to
to
keep
do that
it
to keep it and to make it track, because as soon as you rolled that throttle off and it's freewheeling, it's not tracking in the ground, so then it just loose, and it was
slick out in the stubble field today as well.
Yeah, it just seemed to slide everywhere, but just a little bit of throttle just kept it where you wanted it, and then you could get on the gas.
It's quite cold out here today, and this bike comes with central heating, isn't it? It's down the pipes, obviously right up the top here, and it gets warm, and you can feel it on the inside of your leg there. But in terms of power delivery, compare this, because a few weeks ago we rode the Stark electric bike, so obviously have some similarities with just being a twist and go motocross bike with loads of power. When you came out of this tight turn onto the straight, just talk us through what it felt like to put a power down on an automatic 500.
Well, it just throttle wide open, and that's pretty much it. And it does everything itself. You know, I was quite impressed with it in that way. Felt
efficient.
And it was and it was smooth and all the rest of it.
It didn't feel like there's any wasted power. Whereas on Kong, if you came out and you just floored it, it was you wasting quite a bit of power.
Yeah, no, it wasn't
spinning the back end.
That tight corner, we got a tight corner there, and just out of there, just as soon as you twisted the throttle, it tracked it a bit like the Stark. Do you know what I mean? As soon as you twist the throttle, it's tracking. I think that's an auto thing.
Starting procedure, you had it nailed in the end. It's a bit different. You've got obviously the fuel, the choke, but you've got a lever down here to switch from neutral to drive. So you start it in neutral.
Yeah, and then
left-sided kick, which again weird.
Yeah. Same as any big bore two-stroke, get it TDC and just pop it over slightly and then give it a good kick, and it fired into life straight away. It's a very weird angle, the way the kickstart is. You know, you sort of got to turn your foot into the engine to start it. It's a very strange angle, but once you get your head around that, it was get fired up quite easy. So that part of it was quite impressive.
So as you can imagine, this automatic 500cc two-stroke from the early 80s is a bit of a heavy lump, so we're lucky to have our ProWorks Mechanics pump up stand here from our sponsors 24MX to make things easier when we're getting the shots here today. You can get the stand on the 24MX website. If you use our discount code at 999laser, you can get 15% off this product and a whole load of other things on the 24MX website. Check them out for all of your dirt bike, hard parts, accessories, and so much more. As always, a huge thank you goes to 24MX for supporting the channel and helping us make videos like this one. Okay, so it's the moment of truth then for this video. It's hot lap time. Sean, our channel test rider, Sean Smith, is out on Kong, our fuel-injected 500cc two-stroke. That's the modern 500 that we're putting up against the automatic Husqvarna 500 AE from 1985 here today. Sean's just getting warmed up now on our nice little stubble field track we've got here today. An awesome place for an awesome little circuit for some 500 ride and really get on the gas, and we can see the difference horsepower wise between these two bikes. Kong is up first, and I don't know if you just saw him sliding around the corner there, but Sean's looking quite good on Kong today, so it's going to be an interesting to test. Obviously, modern bike, modern brakes, old bike, old brakes. Is that going to be the decider? Let's find out. Okay, so the clock is on for Kong then. Sean's going to drop the hammer. See what this fuel-injected 500cc two-stroke, the most modern 500 you can buy, that money can buy, on track now. Sounding good out there. So if you watch the channel, you might remember the Big Boy Olympics back in the summer, and Kong won the drag races that day against our YZ500 and our 700cc two-stroke. So we know this bike is fast in a straight line. Across the line then, so let's get Sean in. We'll reveal the lap time for Kong, and then we'll get out there on the Husqvarna 500 AE automatic two-stroke. All good?
So good, isn't it?
Look fun.
Oh, it's unreal. Yeah, absolute beast.
I think the key spot on track is going to be that corner up there, isn't it? Because you come in with so much speed, it's slippy, and then just the brakes between the two.
Yeah, there's a couple of times I was two-wheel drifting.
Yeah, I see you around here.
And I was like, ooh.
So it's the moment of truth for the Husqvarna 500 AE. It's time to find out what this machine is truly capable of. How fast is it in a straight line? How good are those brakes? And how efficient is that power delivery? Sean's getting warmed up on the machine now. Now I'm ready and waiting with the stopwatch. Let's do this. One turn left for the Husky 500 automatic then, and across the line goes Sean. What bike do you guys think looked fastest around our Stubblefield track? Let me know your guesses in the comments down below. Let's find out the results. It was a good race machine back in the enduro world. You can see why it would have been very effective. It's almost awesome. Cheating, really. I think like. You don't have to worry about anything in the slick woods or anything, what gear you need to be in. You're just like, well, I'm going to pick the best line here. Obviously, we did a bit of a race today, lap time wise. We don't know the results yet. 500 AE versus Kong fuel injected 500. So probably one of the most modern 500s money can buy versus technology that was developed 40 years ago. So let's find out the results. Phil's got the results here. We'll have Kong first, please.
41.24 seconds.
41.24 seconds on Kong. And on the 500 AE, 44.65. So
it's what I'd expect.
Yeah. Look, what you, Warren, timed it from cone to cone on the long straight here, and it wasn't that different, was it? 0.2 down the long straight, which is where I thought Kong would have the biggest advantage, but obviously top speed wasn't that different. No. It was probably stopping for that corner and the tighter ones where...
Down this, because this tracked so well, it was using all of its power and it was putting it down to ground, and that's, you know, it was awesome down there. The Kong, because it's obviously got a bit more brake horsepower, it was spinning all the way, you could just feel it, so it wasn't you know, tracking as it would. I think if it was drier, I think it would, you know, it'd probably be different, but it's not drier. These are the conditions, and yeah, this was very impressive down there.
It was an enduro machine, and they say it was more effective, not at top speed, at high speed, at the lower speed stuff, and not under so much stress. That was where it was really effective.
I mean, the way it's done it is so good. It is like an auto car. You know, if you're wide open, it will hold that gear. And if you want it to change, you just backed off a little bit, and it hooked the next gear.
Do you think, like the motocross world has missed a trick not going further down this route with automatic gearboxes? This came to an end, as far as I know, because Husqvarna was sold to Cagiva, and Cagiva just wanted to streamline that business, and these were the first things to go, really. I
think the development in it was, you know, is probably the expense of it outweighs anything else. Yeah. But me, riding an auto takes away your weight. That
part of
you know, riding a motocross bike is all about your controls and how you use them, and how you know, it's all the rider, what he can do with the controls,
and
that
you take
opens
that away. Up a bit of a debate that I've seen going on at the moment is like, should electric bikes be going up against 450 motocross bikes? Is it just completely different?
It is, and it just takes. I think it just takes away rider ability, like. You know, as a rider, and the way you think and the way you use your controls, to not having to think about that, and just basically twisting the throttle and using the brakes, you know, and taking away gears. You know what it's like back in the day riding a, you know, 2 strokes, and you, especially 125. If you got in the wrong gear, see, you know, it's 3 people going by, so you have to be you have to think about everything all the time, be in the right gear and all the rest of it. Whereas this takes that away. And I just think for me, it takes the fun out of it. It definitely takes the fun out of.
So let's leave it on a question there. What do you guys think? Do you think, what do you think about automatic bikes? Would you like to ride one? Would you like to have seen these develop further? And B, what about electric bikes? Do you think they should be racing conventional geared motocross bikes? Let us know in the comments down below. But guys, thanks so much for having us down today. Sean, thanks for sending it on the bike. As always, guys, my name's Max. You've been watching 999 Laser. Until next time, we'll see you at the track.